Welcome to Horns Up. I'm Animesh.
And I'm Peter.
And today we are doing our bit, just like everyone else in the heavy metal community, and adding on to the gargantuan pile of content that's being produced to celebrate the 30th birthday of Metallica's fifth studio album, Metallica, popularly known as the Black Album. But since it's Horns Up and we feel the need to yap, we are doing this in the all A's album format, which means despite the outstanding commercial success that the album enjoys, and despite its massive popularity, legacy status, and all of that, we are going to try and decide if the Black Album is indeed all A's. And how do we do that? By grading each of the 12 songs on it. A majority of straight A's all across the board will bestow on it the highly coveted, rare as fuck title of an all A's album. And because it's an all A's album, like always, helping the two of us out are our prestigious co-jurors from Singapore, one of my favorite people, Ravi Balakrishnan. Welcome back to Horns Up. How are you feeling?
Hey, how's it going?
And another of our favorite people, journalist Anurag Tagat. Welcome back. How are you doing?
Hey, Animesh. Yeah. Hey, Peter. Hey, Ravi. Yeah, it's nice to be back on Horns Up as always.
Yeah, I think we can't do a all A's without Anurag, right? So
Definitely. He brings the additional A.
Yeah.
Yeah. No, actually, if you combine the three of you, then you're just the AAP, which is.
Or we can be the AARP.
Oh, that's the American Association of Retired Persons.
Exactly, right?
Wow. Quite appropriate since we're talking about Metallica, because I think they retired in 1991.
Okay. So I knew that was going to come up right up at the beginning, which is why I thought before we begin actually dissecting this album, it's best to kind of set the stage and try and understand where we are all at with our Metallica fanboyism. So I'm going to ask all of you a simple question, and also I'm giving you guys options to answer it as well. Okay. And of course, if the options don't really suit you, you can come up with your own unique answer. So the question is, what kind of a Metallica fan are you? Okay. Option A, Metallica didn't do and can't do anything wrong. Option B, it's only the first four albums that matter. Option C, 90s Metallica is a natural evolution and I enjoy it. And option D, fuck Metallica, I'm listening to Megadeth. Ravi.
B.
B, it's only the first four albums that matter.
Absolutely.
Peter.
Nothing else matters.
Come on. This is too easy, man.
Peter.
So it depends. And I'm going to come up with option E. Is I'm somewhere in between B and C. And that's what I'm going to say.
Anurag.
Yeah, I'm going to come up with option F then and just be like, option F is, well, what else does F stand for?
F can stand for a lot of stuff, man. We don't know if you're genuinely a fan or if you're genuinely like the other F word or what.
Well, yeah, no, I guess I would just probably be like, fuck it. It's okay. Doesn't really matter that much.
Okay. I'm in between option A and B because, yes, it is the only first four albums that actually do matter. But at this stage in life, when Metallica is clearly having post-retirement success in that sense, they're doing everything right. So whatever.
Yeah.
So that's where we are at on our Metallica journeys. Next question, purely subjective one once again. When did you guys pop your Black Album cherry? And take us back to that moment. Were you into metal or Metallica at that time? What's the story like? How did you get into the album? What was your first listening experience like? Peter.
So, as I think will be a consensus with all of us, I heard Enter Sandman first. And it was like most of the stories I tell about getting into metal is a friend of mine, burnt a compilation CD of me. For me, there was Enter Sandman and Nothing Else Matters and a bunch of other stuff, new metal and all of that. And I was like, oh, interesting. And I couldn't believe that it was the same band that had Enter Sandman and Nothing Else Matters. Then, of course, later on, I figured out, okay, this is the Black Album, Metallica album. And this is around the same time that I was telling you, I'd actually heard I Disappear because Mission Impossible, Tom Cruise, all of that. I don't think we need to get into that as yet. But I'd heard that, so I was like, okay, wait, this band kind of has other stuff, right? Which sounds different. And I think my friend Neeskin's probably, because he used to do this great, he would get like the CD, do a proper bootleg version, like download the lyrics sheet and all of that and put it together. So he kind of gave that to me. So this would be around 2001 or 2, I think. And then I heard Saint Anger. So I think we should stop at my story there.
Okay, cool. Anurag, what about you?
Yeah, and I mean, I think even for me, it was similar in the sense of like I heard like all eras of Metallica in the first shot itself. So I find it hard to remember which one I heard first, like because that's the weird part, right? Like you were hearing, I was watching the video for Nothing Else Matters, and then I would watch the video for Enter Sandman, and then I Disappear would come on, and then Frantic and Saint Anger would play. On MTV or wherever, Channel V, I think. And yeah, so I feel like it was a mix of everything in that sense. And it kind of gave like a bigger picture of maybe who they were and where they are now and stuff like that. And definitely S&M was one of those first sort of proper music DVDs that I ever had. So I got it from my older brother. And yeah, it was really cool. It was definitely like put Metallica on quite a pedestal for me in terms of what a metal band could do.
But just to add to this, if you're talking about watching the music videos, I'm sure you guys also remember, I can't remember it was MTV or Channel V. They used to do that Artist of the Month and then like have that same 6 or 8 videos constantly on rotation. Like I remember Saint Anger being like constantly on TV. You couldn't like get away from it if you put on a music channel. It was like, and it also became the thing that I think with Metallica, right? It's one of those bands when you're younger, it's like, "Tu Metallica sunta hai kya?" You don't hear Metallica. You don't like Metallica. It's that kind of thing in there. But please, I want to hear from Ravi now.
Oh yeah. Yeah, I mean, I could write a small book on this, but I'll try to keep it short. So I heard the Black Album pretty much sequentially. We had, in fact, I don't know, it's a slightly colloquial way of putting it, but the Diwali vacation of 1991 was when we first heard Master of Puppets. And, it was, of course, a bootleg of a bootleg of a bootleg. In the process, someone had fiddled with the settings, and so it sounded a lot more oppressively heavy than it actually is. And, I remember all of us, we were probably just around 15 at that time, listening to something like The Thing That Should Not Be and saying, holy shit, what's happening on this song? It was just completely bizarre. And so naturally, when, a new album by Metallica, the famous Metallica, showed up, we forked out cash for it. By that time, through various sources, both illicit and legal, we'd more or less managed to patch together the entire discography. And I remember the first time I heard Nothing Else Matters, I was like, okay, the song's going to get interesting about now. It's going to get good around now. Now's the time they're going to get into the heavy segment. And then they never did. So I think that was like my first disappointment with the Black Album. And well, to be honest, there was a time I liked it a lot. And, I was like listening to it almost every day. And I thought even the non-hit songs were not so bad. And then the friend of mine who'd borrowed a tape on which I had And Justice for All and Raining Blood, both on one album, like returned that tape to me. And I was like, holy shit, I've been listening to crap. This album blows Metallica out of the water. What the hell is this? And yeah, so, I was a huge fan for the time when I was a fan. And so I guess it's disillusionment and what have you. So yeah, I don't like the album at all. I think it's got one of their single best ever songs, which is The Unforgiven. A song so good that they've tried to destroy it by doing version after version after version of it. And, it's almost like they know that that's the one non-crappy part of the album, and now they are like, waging war against it. But The Unforgiven is still great. The rest of the album,
Okay, we don't need to do an all days album now. Jokes apart. Jokes apart. I mean, yeah, whatever. Well, my story with the Black Album is kind of, it's a hybrid version of the three stories that we've heard so far. Metallica to me was introduced by a neighbor, one of the people that got me into heavy metal itself. And weirdly enough, we only listened to Ride the Lightning and Master of Puppets and Kill 'Em All. So those were the albums that I first got into Metallica from as such. And popularly, I only knew them as the band that had made the song that was used by Sting in WCW as entrance theme, which was Seek and Destroy. So I couldn't really I knew that the Black Album was supposed to be this it was hyped beyond expectation, but I didn't actually listen to it for a really long time, even though I'd already heard Enter Sandman, Sad But True, and Nothing Else Matters, and The Unforgiven. Yeah. But then I was told not to listen to that album and instead listen to a band called Megadeth, which was actually just a stupid way of saying Megadeth. But so I didn't actually listen to the Black Album for a really long time until I finally did. And we'll talk about that once we start talking about the songs. Alrighty, cool. So it's Metallica's Metallica. Everyone already knows how old the album is, the factual stories behind almost all the songs, its artwork, its production, its journey, everything. So I'm not going to add on to the reams of information that's already easily accessible. Instead, let's just get into this and have some fun. Everybody ready?
Yeah. Come on.
Yeah.
That was the time.
Yeah. So let's begin with song number 1, Enter Sandman. Peter, start this one off.
Listen, I'm taking the shot here first, but it cannot be anything less than an A++, because I was listening to the song again, and this is one thing I love about music, right? And I was talking about how I heard Enter Sandman the first time. Every time I listen to the song, I just fucking get excited. It takes me back to that moment where, that opening riff is so distinct that I think even non-metalheads, like a lot of my friends who don't even have never heard or know that there's the Black Album, know this one riff and know that there's an Enter Sandman song. And even that spoken word part that goes in the middle sometimes still gives me chills. And I think that was the entire song, man. I don't know. I see no wrong in this song. Please tell me, Ravi, what do you think?
Oh, I love the music video. The music video is fantastic. I wish they had a nicer song to go with it. One of these days, if I have the enthusiasm, I'll basically overlay that music video with, something else, purely for my private consumption, of course. I don't want Metallica's lawyers getting up my ass. But I like the music video a lot. I think it would be an A song, despite my misgivings about it, except for the guitar solo, which kind of drags it down into the, D- territory. The entire is just one of the most irritating noises on earth. And whenever my head wants to torment me, it just keeps playing that part over and over in a loop. So yeah.
When you say it like that,
yeah, it just makes like Kirk Hammett is going to hear this and come after you now. Forget the rest of Metallica.
Anurag.
Yeah, for sure. I mean, as if you take it for example as an album opener, I suppose it is quite the opening statement for a band like Metallica, who had just been doing all kinds of things up until then, right? So yeah, I feel like Enter Sandman was quite a interesting opening statement from the band that way. And of course, for me, personally, obviously I heard it without the context of the album the first time. And I think similar to Ravi, it was definitely probably the music video that, first struck me. And yeah, that way it's the audio visual presentation is great. And yeah, for me, it's still an A+ because it was yeah, like say what you will, like, like if it's one of the first songs you heard of Metallica, then you probably did like all the, in addition to all the record label execs and marketing guys who did the job, right? Like, I guess it's also that, yeah, it remains one of their most famous songs of all time. You'd hear it everywhere you go. So yeah.
Yeah, don't worry, guys. Even I have this as an A too, purely because it's Enter Sandman. It's reached the point. It's reached a point in time where if heavy metal is supposed to be your kitchen, then Enter Sandman is properly your salt. You need it. It's an essential. It's basically salt at this point. So you have to have it no matter what. It's an A. Yeah. So
also,
the Black Album off to a very good start.
Yeah. Also, I'd just like to mention that I heard literally as recently as two days ago, I heard Weezer cover Enter Sandman, and it was it was playing on the radio somewhere in the US. So yeah, it was just it was from that Blacklist album that obviously I think we have to speak about at some point.
Of course,
we'll be doing that. Definitely.
Yeah.
There are some people who are definitely the unforgiven for it.
Funnily enough, I actually thought that I can't stand Weezer. I think Weezer are awful. I think Weezer are, they were basically a hair metal band that kind of, and they kind of deserve to be called that, who kind of pivoted to alternative just in time to catch a new wave because they were an unsuccessful glam rock band. But having said that, the guitar lead on Weezer's Enter Sandman is better than the guitar lead on Enter Sandman. And apart from everything else, they throw in a lick to Buddy Holly towards the end, which I thought was quite funny. So yeah, I like that guitar lead better than I like Kirk Hammett on Enter Sandman.
For what it's worth, and this is an ECW reference for anybody who's a wrestling fan, Enter Sandman is a fucking awesome entrance theme as used by Sandman itself in ECW. Okay, cool. So Enter Sandman deservedly at least deserves an A, or it's gotten an A from the four of us, an A plus from Anurag and Peter. Oh, you have it as a B?
No, I said it.
You said it's an A, but the solo that got you a B.
We're
right. So I've taken
care, Ravi.
Yeah.
Don't question Animesh's note taking. Huh?
Okay,
yeah.
I can see it today.
Cool. So let's get into song number 2 then. Sad but True. Anurag, start this one off.
This was one of the songs I heard much later on, and then when I heard in the context of the album once again, like since we're sort of talking about this as a whole album, right? Like, I could I heard this and I could see like just how influenced like every band that came after Metallica was by them. Like just the fact of like how this rhythm goes and just how the groove goes. Like it felt very, very authoritative. It just felt very different in that way. And of course, like I'm pretty sure people are free to correct me that even Metallica must have probably picked this up from somebody else. But for me, it was just like a very definitive song. So and the chorus was obviously something that like they make you sort of wait for, I feel, or at least like the words of Sad But True in the chorus. So yeah, like that way I felt like it was quite well written. So for me, it's an A. And what about Peter?
I'm giving it an A also. I mean, again, I think heard it much later. I didn't hear it in the album context first. And if I'm not mistaken, I think I watched it on S&M. I can't remember now. It's all muddled up for me. I like that part. I mean, like, I keep using Sad But True for a lot of comebacks. Sometimes it's just one of those things, man. Especially in like metal conversations. So it's become that part of me now. But I really enjoyed the track. I mean, like when you see the way they've sequenced it, and I'm going to like really nitpick on that later on, but you see how it goes, like, Enter Sandman, Sad But True, well done. Rest of the tracks, when we get to it, we'll talk. Why don't you tell us what you think, Animesh? What have you rated it?
I've rated it an A. Having said that, though, it's the first time in a Metallica album that songs 1 and 2 don't pulverize you. Sad But True is heavy. I grant them that, but it's not the Four Horsemen. It's not Ride the Lightning. It's not Master of Puppets. It's not And Justice for All. That being said, it is heavy, but when compared to previous Metallica albums, it's just not heavy enough. When put it into context of this particular album, it is one of their heavier tracks. It's an average song. Having said that, an average for Metallica is still pretty good. So it's an A for me. Ravi.
Yeah, well, I mean, I think you guys are lucky because you guys were, born a decade later than I was at least. I not just heard Sad But True, I also heard a lot of Indian bands plotting their way through Sad But True. So
we've all done that.
That album, I mean, that song has basically had the crap kicked out of it as far as I'm concerned.
Yeah.
I mean, after you heard numerous Indian bands at the IIT elements go, Sad But True, you can't unhear that even when you're hearing the actual song. So, yeah, definitely. Riff-wise, I'd say it's an A. It's a really, really good riff. If they'd kind of sped it up, who knows where it would have got to. I think there's a controversy around that song about it having been ripped off from some other band or something like that. I seem to have read something on those lines on Blabbermouth a while ago. But yeah. I'd say it's a decent song, provided I'm able to strip a lot of personal history away from it. Let me put it this way. If Motley Crue had done that song, I think it was great.
What do you guys think about the original Blacklist when Snoop Dogg covered Sad But True?
Oh, crap. I haven't heard that.
I haven't heard
it. No, come on.
Homework for you guys. Check it out. It's much better than any of the Blacklisted songs. Personal opinion. Anyways, let's move on. So wait, Ravi, what did you grade it as?
I think it's an A. It's a decent song. If I was to strip away the emotional feelings that I have about it, if I analyze it purely on the basis of the riff is fantastic.
Yeah.
I mean, it does get old towards the end. It needn't have gone on for 6 freaking minutes, but it's a fairly decent riff. Also, interestingly enough, when I think it was Universal Music or Polygram, I don't remember what the company was called now, when they released the album, they actually cut out a whole set of intros to songs and stuff like that. The sitar intro to Wherever I May Roam, gone. The intro to Sad But True, gone. So basically they just had a 60-minute tape and they just wanted to cram this into that. So they were
fucking hell. So
Yeah.
what was it like the first time you heard the Sad But True original?
The first time I heard the sitar intro on the Wherever I May Roam video, I was like, what the hell is this? Did these guys record this specifically for the video? And then a friend of mine had a pirated tape of Metallica, and that was the full album. So, it just gives you some insight into why a lot of us in India were very, very suspicious about even licensed and officially licensed products because, we were being ripped off coming and going. So, yeah.
And sounds like grounds to sue, honestly. But yeah.
Can you imagine?
Okay, cool. So yeah, all A's for what we've all now also called an average song. So Sad But True.
It's
Anyways, wow. Okay, Metallica is doing pretty well so far. So let's see whether the hat trick actually happens or not on song number 3, which is Holier Than Thou. Ravi.
Oh, this one I really like. I mean, it's one of the few songs that shows some kind of a glimmer of the Metallica that used to be. I think this one and Through the Never are probably the only kind of throwbacks to the band that they once were. Again, if Holier Than Thou or Through the Never had been on And Justice for All or something like that, it would have felt like a bit of a B-side. But considering the context of the rest of the album, I think Holier Than Thou is an A song. It doesn't outstay its welcome. It's short, it's fast, it's punchy. So yeah, I like that song a good deal.
Yeah, it's absolutely the same view that I have too. The song seems to be here only to remind the OG fan that don't worry, the old Metallica still exists. And yes, this song could have easily found a place on even Ride the Lightning or Master of the Puppets too. I mean, yeah, it wouldn't be one of the more popular songs, but hey, it deserved the place there. This is old school Metallica coming up. So yeah, for me, it's an A2. Anurag.
Yeah, and I mean, for me, it was say, think what you will of this, but it was the first time I was finding out about the phrase holier than thou. So I think like lyrically, it was quite a revelation that way, or just, like it made me look up stuff and just be like, okay, like this is what it means to say holier than thou and stuff like that. So that way is nice. And yeah, like both you and Ravi said, like it was very much that thrash metal song that like that everybody probably wanted 2 songs down into this album. And yeah, Metallica delivered for sure. Like they delivered quite well, and I think it's quite evident that they have fun on this. Like, it definitely sounds like that. So yeah, it's an A for me. What about you, Peter?
Yeah, same. Like I was actually surprised, and that's the thing, right? When you listen to the tracks sequentially, you're like, wait, why did they put this at number 3, right? This should have kind of come up, or like Animesh was saying earlier, right? You have those thrashy numbers that Metallica is kind of known for. Why did they put this in there? But here's the thought, guys. So by the way, it's an A for me also, because I really enjoyed like the guitars. And don't kill me, Ravi, I actually liked the solo.
I don't remember the solo too distinctly. So.
Same here, even I don't remember the solo.
But here's the thing. I was just thinking while I was reading through the lyrics, right? This is kind of like prophesying about Dave Mustaine, right? Because it
wasn't a prophecy. It had already started, dude.
No, in terms of he became holy, right? Because he became like all that. So this is like they already kind of knew like all these years later that he's going to be holier than thou.
Oh man,
I had to throw this in.
One of the most insightful observations you ever had on the pod. That's amazing.
That's saying something.
Guys, I love how it's a backhanded compliment.
It's not a backhanded compliment. That's genuinely.
I meant Animesh.
I'm just trying to stoke the fires here, man. Yeah. And if you don't like it, well, whatever, you can dub me The Unforgiven, which is song number 4. The next song that follows. Wow, what a segue, right? Yeah. Okay, cool. Okay, so my take on it is I'm rating this one A+. By now, the world knows what to expect from the 4th or 5th song in a Metallica album. We've already heard Fade to Black. We've already heard Sanitarium. So they've done this kind of a song before. But The Unforgiven, it kind of, I think it showed off a maturity that we haven't seen before. It's also, I think, by far one of the most emotive songs ever. And overall, just as a piece of music and as a piece of songwriting, it's excellent. There's no way you can fault this particular rendition or the original composition at all. So for me, it's a straight up A+, first A+ for me on this album. Ravi.
Oh yeah, I mean, A with pluses extending into infinity. It's the last Metallica song that I liked, frankly. It's just an incredible song. What's very, very interesting about it is the fact that, in all the previous songs, they had the kind of, brooding power ballady segment, for want of a better way of putting it, which segued into the heavy segment. Whereas over here, it was light and day. You had the heavy bits that were kind of force-fitted into the actual song structure. And then, you had the chorus that was really mellow. The guitar lead is outstanding. I think there's this brilliant video that was doing the rounds in which Bob Rock is really taking Kirk Hammett to task for not playing properly on it. And, he tells him something like, stop making excuses. This is a great song from James. And I wish he'd done that with all the guitar lead on the album, but well, I guess
there's only that much he can do.
There's only so much.
He probably told Kirk Hammett, you know what? I don't need Wawa from you. I need Wawa from the fucking pedal.
Or imagine if he said that, hey, Mustaine would have played this better. Boom.
Or you went and said that, hey, no, man. I need Vavas like how Indians say Vava, not like how you fucking say Vava.
Animesh is on a roll with this.
Yeah.
Man.
Yeah. So, Anurag, what do you think of this song?
Yeah, I know. Like you said about the chorus, like I really agree with what you said on the chorus. It's mellow, and like you just don't really expect that from like even from like a metal band, right? Like how often does a metal band say, the chorus we're going to be mellow? Like, other parts I can understand. So yeah, like for me, like when it sort of uh dips into that space, in the song, yeah, like it really stuck out for me in that sense. And that's that. I think that's obviously, again, the chorus is what stays with you at the end of it. So yeah, like they definitely did that right, and just for that, like honestly, and just the way the whole song has been written and structured, and like 6.5 minutes, right? So it's yeah, it's quite a trip. So yeah, it was A+ for me. What about you, Peter?
Same, man. I mean, I think like something with The Unforgiven is that everyone has their own kind of interpretations, right? And when you listen to it as like an angsty young teenager and all, sometimes it's that your former friend can be the unforgiven, and then later once you grow up, it can be an ex-girlfriend, or I don't know, whatever it can take so much for you, right? And when you listen back to it, much older, you have those memories attached to it more than anything else. But I agree with all of you, man. It's an A+ song. It's something that I don't think anyone expected Metallica to release, right? Like, correct me if I'm wrong, Ravi. You heard like Master of Puppets around the same time. So
Oh yeah, I mean, I think I like to think of it as Metallica's swan song for themselves. If you think about even the lyrics are essentially about how you come in as new blood, then you get subdued, then you become the tired old man who no longer cares, which I think they'd kind of become by that stage. So I think it was them writing the song about themselves. Oh, and we have to talk about the video. The video was mind-blowing.
Yeah.
Again, at the point I saw it, 1992 or something like that, I hadn't seen images like that, and it was so scary and so powerful. The kid dragging the chair around, the digging, it was fabulous.
It's nuts, dude. And like, again, I watched it like probably most probably a decade later, right? And it had that same impact on me. And I'm pretty sure the thing about the song and the video also is that in 2021 someone's probably watching it and having the same impact, right? So that just tells you how fucking great the song is.
Okay, Peter, so while we're on this topic, I just have to ask you, considering what you said, have you used The Unforgiven as a breakup love song?
Of course. It wasn't
Really?
that kind of obvious. That was like, it was always, I mean, see, that's the thing, right?
I'm trying to imagine now. No, wait.
Because you did The Unforgiven. Come on, man.
No. Okay,
I dubbed The Unforgiven, actually. It's not you did The Unforgiven.
I know. You make that up.
No, that's fine. No, I'm not. See, full respect to you. What I'm trying to imagine is, because this for me is new information, right? I never thought Metallica's Unforgiven could be used as a breakup song. Okay, which then leads me to ask, do you think this was calculated to be a breakup song at some point in time? Like, do you think the Metallica boys came together and said, or Bob Rock came to them and said that, hey, you know what this album really needs? It just doesn't need a song like Nothing Else Matters, but it also needs a song which can be used as a breakup song. So you have to write something like The Unforgiven.
I wish like Metallica had the access to the data that they now do, right? Because they use that, I think on Spotify or something I'd read, to kind of program their set lists. But we're talking 1991. Probably, for all you know, one of them or one of their friends went through something, or I don't know. I mean,
maybe so a roadie or something. You never know, man. Yeah. Taking something from a roadie.
Yeah. Now, what I really want to know is how did the girl take this? Did
you go up to her and go like, you label me and I'll label you?
I love how this has suddenly become about like Peter at 18 years old. Oh my god! Like, way to bring up my like repressed memories, guys.
Fine. We won't
No. Of course not. Like, I don't think I ever told her that.
Oh, this was just something you thought to yourself.
Obviously, I mean
Okay.
that's the thing, right? You're the
that's how we
brooding.
use music, man.
Yeah, I mean,
It's
what else do
naturally
kids
this
do?
thing.
Like, they only like keep it all inside, no?
I mean, like, come on. Otherwise, would you prefer if it's like I tried so hard and got so far? that was the next better alternative in that time, right?
Damn.
Yikes.
Yeah. Okay. No, I give you full credit on that one. Good use of the song "The Unforgiven." So let's move on to track number 5, "Wherever I May Roam." Let's get the elephant out of the room or the cat out of the bag or whatever, and just say that, just like every other Indian heavy metal fan, the first take for this song has to be about that introduction. But once you get that out of the way, I think the song is fucking such a stomper. It's the elephant of this album. It's slow, steady, strong. It marches to its own beat. And just like an elephant, a strong elephant, mind you, in the jungle, it's absolutely unfuckwithable. I really enjoy Wherever I May Roam. For me, this is the second A+ on this album. Anurag.
Yeah, man, this is also an A+ for me because I heard it a few songs later in like the Metallica album, just in terms of discovering this album, songs from this album, and discovering Metallica, so to speak. So yeah, like when I heard it, and in the context of this album, it just feels like just another thing that Metallica did to sort of, I guess, push, to use a cliche, to push the envelope, I suppose. Like, I mean, to just sound a little more diverse. And we don't know how, like, it definitely doesn't sound forced, of course. Like, it sounds quite brilliant that way. Like the fact that they didn't force any of this stuff. So yeah, that way, like start to finish, it just sticks with you almost instantly. So it's an A+. What about you, Ravi?
Oh, I can't stand this song. I think it's the guitar solo is lamentable, of course, but even the lyrics, they're so butt rocky, I mean, one of my least favorite Iron Maiden songs is Wasted Years, which is a slightly more eloquent testament to a life on the road, etc., etc. But this was just straight up butt rock, and it was just awful. Can't stand the song. I'd give it a D.
My God, I want to like suddenly do a separate segue on why do you hate Wasted Years, man?
No, I get it, man. Wasted Years lyrically is very mediocre. It's the music that stands out.
Yeah, actually, I don't like the music either there. I mean, we should probably do Somewhere in Time at some point in time. But, you have Caught Somewhere in Time, then you have Wasted Years, and then I think you have this one, right? Seas of Madness, if I'm not mistaken. I mean, I remember the song after that is completely badass, and it's like, oh God, I got to sit through Wasted Years to get to that. Oh. So, yeah. Sorry. Anyway, to continue. Wherever I May Roam, Peter, go.
Because I knew this point is going to come where you and I find tracks absolutely the opposite, and this is one of them. I was expecting it. But I mean, like the opening riff, the main riff, and all of that, that's what I really enjoy. But this is the point in the album where you're like, could this song be shorter? So maybe
Yes.
whoever took the call on like reducing the length, right, did a good thing. Is this one of the songs that you heard?
But the sad part of it is they cut the sitar intro, which was genuinely good, but they kept the awful wah pedal guitar solo outro. Now, if they'd cut that, I'd have been happy as a clam. It would have probably been an A for me. But
So this is
the thought of the thing towards the end. Good God, makes me want to shoot myself.
So this tells you that the guy who is like kind of sitting on the chopping board and editing the stuff didn't know what the fuck he was doing. But yeah, this is an A for me.
Okay, if Wherever I May Roam had been released by Metallica, say 20 years or 30 years down the line, do you think they would have been cancelled because it would be deemed cultural appropriation?
No, man. I mean, it sounds like, it could just be one of those things that, like anyway, at least, say 20 years down the line, which is 2010 or something, let's say, then yeah, like I think it's still going on quite on a worldwide level, man. Nobody's getting cancelled for anything. So
yeah, actually you're right. Because but if it's 2011, 2010, then this would have been a song that's been generated because Metallica needs to reach the Indian audience, just like every other American global MNC. It needs to tap into the next million.
It would have been cultural appropriation if they'd had a video in which Kirk Habit's playing a sitar and the rest of it is them playing Holy or something, like that ridiculous Coldplay video from a while back.
Oh my God. Why? Why do you have to bring up such memories, Ravi?
No, but Metallica playing Holy, that should be cool, man.
Yeah, holier than thou.
Oh my God.
Okay, I'll leave it at that then. Let's move on to song number 6. It's the beginning of the second half of the album. Well, no, actually not quite. It's actually the ending of the first half of the album.
It was the last song on side A.
Yes, which is Don't Treat on Me. I'm going to begin here. This is my first B for this album. To me, this is Lars getting wind of the fact that, there's this band called Pantera, and this is what they've been up to. Cowboys from Hell was this album that was being released a year ago, and there's something to the sound. So Lars takes it to James and he says like, hey, James, do you want to try and play this kind of a song? And James goes, yeah. This is the result of what would happen if Metallica decided to take on Pantera. Yeah, it's a fucking stupid song. It's a B all the way. Peter.
I can already feel the hate coming in from Ravi, but I'm going to say this really quickly. I give it a B+ only for the solo that comes towards the end. Ravi, do you have anything to say on that?
Oh yeah, I mean, I think Don't Tread on Me is quite interesting because it's almost like hitting you over the head for having evaluated Wherever I May Roam poorly. If you evaluated Wherever I May Roam poorly, it's like, oh, you thought that was butt rock. Listen to this. This is butt rock. It is complete and total butt rock. It's essentially, I think all of Five Finger Death Punch were probably conceived when their parents were making love to this song in the background.
Oh my God!
I'll give you points for that.
The most boneheaded, dumb, idiotic song on earth. I mean, it's the kind of thing that you'd have expected somebody like maybe Ted Nugent to do, who also did a song called Don't Tread, which by the way kicks the ass of this song. But it's just incredibly obnoxious and stupid. Up until that point, people used to call Metallica thinking man's heavy metal due to the time changes and the lyrical depth and what have you. But this is like the unthinking man's heavy metal. This is basically a caveman clubbing himself. Don't tread on me.
But so I have to ask you this question at this point. Do you think Metallica consciously kind of like were like, no, we have to reach the masses. We have to dumb ourselves down?
Of course,
this was basically, it was like, if Wherever I May Roam was, according to Animesh's story, or rather fictional reimagining, their attempt at cornering the Asian market, this was their attempt at, hitting the Ozarks and redneck country.
Why do you think I made up that story about Metallica listening to and wanting to emulate Pantera?
Oh yeah, I kind of missed the subtlety of that point. I'm sorry.
Ravi, what's your grade?
Oh, D.
Lovely.
Absolutely. Is D the lowest grade we have? Can we go down to a Z or something? But
whatever you want to, man.
D.
Okay, cool. Anurag.
Yeah, for me also, it's probably just like a B at best, and maybe a D if we're just trying to put it in context of the album, because it's just more like the only thing I suppose people take away from it is that it's sort of like a fuck you kind of song, and but unfortunately like it's a very dumbed down kind of fuck you song, so it's like something that like a school bully would like just where like somebody says you shut up and be like, no, you shut up, like it's basically that level of arguments as far as it goes. And I recently found out that it's used by a lot of I think it's used by a lot of US Marine Corps kind of people, and like right wingers in general basically have sort of co-opted this song in the US right now. So I'm not at all surprised, and I guess that's on Metallica's conscience, I guess.
Definitely. And I also have to say, the most hilarious part of the song is actually in the very first few opening bars, which is that annoying as stupid fuck, that melody that kicks in. That which was supposed to be, maybe, I don't know why that piece exists. It seems like an outtake. Completely, it doesn't set up the song, doesn't do anything. Like, what the fuck was happening here? Anyways, yay. So this is, see, I'm so happy that finally we got a round of non-A's. Take that, fucking Metallica.
That meant yeah for us, at least, not for James.
Okay, cool. So let's move on to the first song, which will be the first song of the second half of the album as such, Through the Never. Peter, start this one off.
I've given it A, and I mean, I enjoyed the lyrics of it. I mean, like, for me, this is a personal thing, right? Where you kind of like read lyrics like so quick to criticize and all of that. And I think it's the same thing like I talked about Unforgiven. So guys, please don't bring back repressed memories, warning you here. But it just listening back to the songs, bring back all those memories and just what I was going through then. So yeah, that's A. Who wants to go next? I know Ravi is looking at me all judging, so go for it, Ravi.
Okay, I mean, I didn't mind Through the Never. I thought the riff was slightly undefined and Bhangra-esque for some reason. That it wasn't the greatest riff Metallica have ever played by a long shot. However, it had a certain pace and vigor to it. It felt like a band that was being played by a band with a pulse. I don't mind it at all. I wouldn't go so far as to give it an A. I'd say it's a B. But Anurag, let's hear you talk about Through the Never.
Yeah, for sure, man. I mean, like I agree with what you said. Basically, like that opening riff just like it made me sit up and take notice in that way, but not necessarily in a good way. Like it's more of like what's going on here kind of way. Where you just sort of shift your eyes and be like something's not right, or at least something feels like it's not right. But at the same time, like it was still more. It was a heavier song than I guess so far. Like I guess it was heavier in the right way, I feel, for Metallica. So for me, that's why like I guess I would give it like maybe a B plus, maybe an A, but yeah, probably B plus, I think. Animesh.
Okay, so I really don't like, this song doesn't evoke anything as such from me. I don't have any complaints to it either. It's not their strongest song. It's not their weakest song. I found the chorus a bit annoying, but that's about it. It doesn't really evoke any kind of a strong or negative reaction from me. So I'll grade this a B. It's an average Metallica song, but it's still using, like, it's not using their best material ever.
Yeah,
I think it's just mediocre for a Metallica song. That being said, it's still a good song, but yeah.
Yeah, no, and I remember that like Through the Never was part of some promotions later on, right? Like, wasn't it was it a live DVD?
Yeah, I was
became the
So,
name of their the movie which they did, which was actually a concert in disguise.
yeah, so it was supposed to be some kind of a high concept concert film, which also had some kind of a narrative going about some dude being kidnapped. Why do you think they used this song in particular as the title for that exercise? It was apparently a commercial disaster, and they just lost money hand over fist making that because they filmed it in 3D and did God knows what else. And
Production wise, Through the Never was a beast. Like, I mean, in the time when it was released, and even the concert itself and the album that came off it and the movie also, I haven't seen the movie fully, but I've seen various clips of it. I think what they pulled off was something that heavy metal wasn't ready for, because you'd have to, like, who would financially back such kind of a project if it ever was to become the de facto norm? There was nobody other than Metallica who could have done that. So I'll give full credit for Metallica and pulling that off. But Through the Never was, I think, the best title they could have chosen for it, because if you do that, you're basically not going to do it ever again, at least for that time. And maybe they knew that, which is why they chose Through the Never. I'm trying to imagine, like, what else would you call that?
I Disappear. About the money.
I Disappear already has too much on it, right? So it has to be one of the lesser Metallica songs that's not very high profile.
My Friend in Misery. They could have called it that.
That's catering to a very different market altogether. But yeah, whatever. Yeah, it's
Yeah.
cool. Let's move on to song number 8, and this is a song that, yeah, wow, it needs to be talked about, right? Because it's Nothing Else Matters, right? I just have to say this. I'm grading the song an A. Okay, this song is the song that all your non-heavy metal listening friends will grudgingly allow you to play when they see you sulking in a corner after being subject to 2 hours of pop and party music at a house party. And you know what? You'll take it and you'll make it, and you'll have that casual chat with somebody who's okay enough to listen to you about just how good Metallica are, and probably you'll also get them to do an air guitar and raise the horns up when James plays that fantastic solo. It's also the song that almost every heavy metal fan plays within the first 5 minutes of getting handed a guitar. At this point in time, it's an iconic song. Does it get overplayed? Is it overused? Am I tired of listening to it? Probably, but while it's playing, I'm really looking forward to that guitar solo coming in. So that's why, for me, at least, it's an A. Anurag, what about you?
Yeah, man. For me, it's an A as well. I think generally, like this was the song that proved that Metallica could write a ballad, I guess. And I guess that they could write a ballad that could go on radio or something like that, basically. And I think they did it well in that sense. That like it wasn't necessary, at least to me, it didn't feel it was pandering. So yeah, like I felt like they walked quite a tightrope that way. And yeah, I mean, you're never gonna make everybody happy, and rightly so. Like, not everybody was happy with this song for sure. And I think this was a song that, yeah, like in fact caused a lot of people to just be like, what the fuck is this? So but apart from that, like I still remember even listening to the S&M version, which is absolutely excellent. Like, think of every time I hear it, it just gives me like gooseflesh, just like seeing how it was carried off. And yeah, like you said, even the solo and stuff. So yeah, it's a plus from me. What about you, Ravi?
Oh, I actually really like the guitar lead, the last guitar lead. That is, I think it's one of the songs that weirdly enough has one of the best and one of the worst Metallica guitar leads. There's lead-ish bit that they kind of play before that, which literally goes bling chong, bling chong, bling chong, and I'm like, good God, this is like a lullaby or something like that. I mean. I think now, of course, there are these popular lullaby versions of heavy metal, but if you ask me, Metallica predated that trend with that guitar lead on Nothing Else Matters. I think the second guitar lead, the one that James plays, is fantastic. It's a great argument for Metallica to be a band where the guitar lead playing is split right down the middle between James and Kirk, because James obviously has better ideas. As for the song, I couldn't stand it. As for the video, I couldn't stand it. The video had these guys generally throwing darts at Winger, who I think, at least as far as guitar leads are concerned, run rings around Metallica. I think Reb Beach once said this and got trolled like hell on Blabbermouth for saying it, but it is true. I mean, Reb Beach can play half asleep what Kirk Hammett would probably have to, they play after like infinite shots of coffee or something like that. So yeah, I can't stand the song. I like the guitar lead. I'll split the difference and give it a B.
Wait, Ravi gave Nothing Else Matters a B?
Yeah, okay, because I really like the outro guitar lead.
Fair enough. So I'll start off with the story for this, and this tells you how timeless Nothing Else Matters is. So my son is at kindergarten, lower kindergarten, and his teacher learns guitar. So I happened to go pick up some stuff for his school in there, and the guitar instructor was there, and I just happened to be passing by, and lo behold, guess what riff the guitar instructor was teaching my son's teacher? The opening to Nothing Else Matters. Because
Easiest
30
fucking
years
song.
later,
Yeah. No, it
every
is.
guitar, like I think, I'm pretty sure you, Animations, you play guitar, and for the non-guitar guys, being Anurag, Ravi, and me, we're like, yeah, we want to play. That's a riff that everybody knows. And here's
It's the
someone who's
easiest
not
thing
a
to
man.
teach somebody the power of guitar and get them to feel like, holy shit, I can do this, because it literally involves plucking 4 strings of a properly tuned guitar. That's it. There's no other effort. That is genius. That is genius.
Yeah, and just for the fact that, man, like I'm just trying to think, like, you know, my son's teacher will know Metallica, but not really know Metallica, if you know what I mean. But yeah, man, I mean, like, I think the song is timeless, and I absolutely refuse to listen to anyone who kind of like covers it. Especially, I haven't heard who did the Blacklist one. I hope I've
Oh, there was
avoided
that
listening.
horrible Yo-Yo Ma cover. There was, I think, it was
Miley
Elton
Cyrus
John,
did it, right?
Miley Cyrus, and Yo-Yo Ma. Yo-Yo Ma plays an
Shit.
outro to it, and while I've heard a lot of, not a lot of his stuff, but I've heard some of his stuff, and it's been good. This was Yo-Yo Ma, I think, really slumming it. It sounded like the outro violin piece to Chura Ke Dil Mera Goriya Chali. You know, that unnecessarily poignant kind of violin outro. It was terrible.
Listen, I think that for me, so I made the mistake of listening to that cover, and I think that set up my entire thing of disappointment for the Blacklist. So yeah, but you know, Metallica, 30 years later, thank you for writing the song. I give you an A+.
Interesting. Okay, cool. Mixed opinions about that song, even though it's probably the most popular song by Metallica, weirdly enough, right? But that's how time works. Sad but true. Whatever. Let's move on to the next song, which is Of Wolf and Man. If I could, I would give this song 2 ratings, right? The album version, I rated a B because it's okay. It's okay. Like, the subject matter is cool, but that's about it. The live version, however, especially from when Jason Newsted was with the band, that deserves A freaking plus. But yeah, we are not judging the live version. So for me, this song at the moment is a B. But you guys know why I'm saying that the live version deserves an A plus, right? Because fuck yeah, Jason Newsted pulling off those backing vocals and getting the crowd to do everything and making the song, giving the song the energy it actually deserved. Fucking wonderful job. Anurag, what about you?
Yeah, man, like for me, like I heard some similarities with Enter Sandman. I don't know how intentional or unintentional that was, but some of the call and response sort of thing going on there seemed like that. And like what you mentioned about like just the live version, I mean, not so much yeah, like I suppose the production and stuff was as good as it can be for that time, but I suppose if it was made today, for example, like it would be the ready for arena sort of like song basically. But none of that takes away from the fact that it doesn't really do much, and it doesn't really it doesn't really say much either. So for me, it's a B. What about you, Peter?
Clearly, there's a reason why this song is on the B side of the album, right?
Sure.
It's like at this point, like I wish at the end we could do like which songs we would leave out in our optimal or ideal Black album, and this would be one of the songs. Just because like I gave it a B plus because it, like, you have that guitars. That's the thing I think you see, in similar to Enter Sandman. But and then I'm sure I'm waiting for Ravi to comment on the solo because there's that in there. And at this point, they're kind of like, it's, how do I say, it becomes formulaic. Like after a certain point that there's a solo coming in there. So yeah, that's about it for me on Of Wolf and Man. Ravi?
Yeah, I mean, I completely agree with you. I think Of Wolf and Man signals the start of the absolute filler segment of the album. I think all those songs could have been comfortably left off, and there'd have been nobody going to the stores and demanding their money back. Off Wolf and Man is absolute third tier filler stuff. It's essentially one of the downsides of the CD era, where you could now have a 60-minute album or a 70-minute album comfortably, and you didn't have to prune things down to a tight 45, 48 minutes, which you used to be doing when LPs were like the dominant delivery format. And yeah, it's just bloated, it's unnecessary. The shake, whoa, hey, thing gets on my nerves. Yeah, completely terrible song. I'd give it a D.
So let's see where that leads us to, because song number 10 is The God That Failed. Anurag, take this one off.
I don't know if I was just hearing stuff by this point, but then the same way where I heard something similar in Of Wolf and Man to Enter Sandman, even in this, I could sense that slower pace and a groovier sort of thing was again probably similar to Pantera a little bit, and then kind of reminded me of Sad But True a little earlier on and stuff.
I have to butt in at this point, because I have to say, just to build from where you started off from. Lyrically, The God That Failed is amazing. Musically, not that much. This song to me is part of the continued hazing of Jason Newsted by the band, because Lars probably heard Megadeth's Dawn Patrol. Have you guys heard Megadeth's Dawn Patrol?
Yeah.
Right? And he went to then Lars goes to James. I don't know why all of my stories have Lars first hearing something and then saying, and then going to
because
James.
he's the evil one, right? He's Lars.
And then James obviously says, yeah, let's make a song that's better than Dawn Patrol, but we'll keep to the same idea. And then they went and found Jason, and Jason's probably practicing his ass off, but they went and told Jason that, hey, you have to play Dawn Patrol, but just don't make it sound like Dawn Patrol, and we're going to come and fuck around with the song later. And I don't know what the end of the story is, but that's basically where I've reached till this point in time. But
you should write a book on this.
Exactly, right? Yeah. Anurag.
The making of the Black Album, the apocryphal making of the Black Album.
Each chapter begins with Lars listening to something and going to James and go hey, James, and James goes yeah. It'll become a set routine. But I'm guessing that's where you, Anurag, the comparison to Pantera, I get that, but this has stuck with me ever since the first time I heard this song. That, dude, this is Dawn Patrol, but just done in a Metallica way.
Oh, man, yeah, it's just yeah, man, so at this point, basically in an album like this, which has so far, as it's more or less sort of not faltered too much, but then when you hear this, and especially after A Wolf and Man or something like that, then you just start to feel okay, this is the part where they're just all pretty much either repeating themselves or not offering anything new. So yeah, for me that's a C basically. What about you, Ravi?
Oh yeah, I mean it's definitely coasting. What's interesting though is the fact that I think the lyrics probably had a huge resonance for Hetfield, because I think The God That Failed, and when you start talking about the lyrics, Animesh, it just did a quick dive into what they were, because I didn't remember them off the cuff. And it definitely ties into his very complicated kind of feelings about Christian Science. His parents were Christian Scientists, and Christian Scientists essentially believe that, there's no need to, get into any kind of medicine because God will provide and heal and stuff like that. And I think James lost his mother when he was fairly young. And this song seems to talk about that. So yeah, lyrically, it's a very, very interesting kind of song. Musically, not at all. I'd give it an A for the lyrics and a D for everything else. Interestingly enough, there seem to be a lot of heavy metal, hard rock people who've been traumatized by Christian Science. Miles Kennedy's first solo album, Year of the Tiger, is essentially about him losing his father because his dad was a Christian Scientist, and his, entire struggle to kind of cope with that.
So what's your final grade then?
Yeah, probably I'll split the difference between the A and the D and give it a C.
Yeah, so since I already spoke about this, I'll just round off and say that it's only the lyrics that bump up the song to a B for me. Musically, it's not that interesting. I've heard Dawn Patrol, that's better. So for me, I give it a B.
Yeah,
Peter, finish this one off.
And so, like, if this is like probably done, like, I don't know, we were talking about this, like, say 15 years ago or something like that, I would have like been in the same thing. But then the lyrics really resonate with me, and I can actually kind of know what James sings or why he kind of wrote it. So yeah, it's not an easy listen for me. Like, I know exactly what he's talking about and what he kind of goes through. And for me, it's like, wow, this is something that he wrote in like 1991. I went through the exact same thing in 2008. And listening to it was not easy. But then, you know, that's what music does to you, right? It kind of helps you cope through certain things. While we could laugh about The Unforgiven, I can't really do that for this song. But yeah, man, it's hard to rate this song because like it could have been like me if I was a musician writing something like this, and that would have been my only way of coping. But yeah, man, I'd say just A, because like when I read the lyrics and I go through it, it's the same. It's exact. I know that exact feeling, and it's not. It's like it's coming from a place of like hopelessness, if nothing else. So yeah, that's my take on it.
Full respect there, man. Absolutely okay.
Yep. And if I make a recommendation, if you like or if you resonate with God That Failed, you'll absolutely love Year of the Tiger. Get around to hearing it. It's amazing. It's fantastic. That's the Miles Kennedy solo album, mostly acoustic.
Yeah.
All great.
And I need to check that one out.
Cool. So on that somber note, let's move on to the penultimate track, which is My Friend of Misery, which to me is like, if the God That Failed is the hazing of Jason Newsted, then this song is Jason Newsted finally being accepted by Metallica, but up to a point, right? They go like, yeah, well, okay, now you are part of the band, but you're not really part of the band, if you know what I mean. Because this song apparently began life with the intention of being an instrumental and was supposed to be, you know, just like Tulu or Orion or even To Live Is To Die, it was supposed to be the instrumental to this album. But then somebody came and said that, no, man, we should try and make this a song. It should have stayed an instrumental, because as an instrumental, the fabulous bass part and the bass and bar doodle as such is the only part of the song where Kirk Hammett actually manages to matter. So yeah, for me, I'm rating this one as an A because I really love playing this song too.
But don't you always think, could this be shorter? Like, that's what, I don't know why. Like a lot of times
it should have been, this should have been an instrumental, and as an instrumental only, this song would have ruled as like, take away all the vocals, take away the lyrics, that the song doesn't require them. You have a beautiful riff, you have it progressing, it can be built into so much more. It needn't have been maybe balls to the wall heavy or fast as any other Metallica instrumental. It could have been a perfectly heavy, slow, doomy kind of a song too, but leave it as an instrumental.
Wait, is this the first? I just realized, is this the first Metallica album that they don't have an instrumental on it?
Yeah, kind of. I mean, To Live Is To Die has that poem at the end of it, so it doesn't like, it's not an instrumental purely in that sense of the way. It is. And no, even Kill 'Em All doesn't have an instrumental track on it.
It does. The bass solo.
Anesthesia, yeah. Sorry.
Yeah.
Anyways.
Okay, who's going next?
My Friend of Misery, for me, it's an A. Come on. Support me or detract me.
Don't you think it's, I feel it's a very on-the-nose song written to Dave Mustaine. Again, I was just checking with the lyrics. And, you know, it's essentially Metallica. I think it's Metallica's diss track, if you will. You just stood there screaming, fearing no one was listening to you. They say the empty can rattles the most. The sound of your voice.
Oh my God, yeah.
Hearing only what you want to hear and knowing only what you've heard. You're smothered in tragedy and you're up to save the world.
Dum, 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 dum,
Yeah,
dum.
so I think it's I think it's essentially then kind of dismissing Dave Mustaine and song because it definitely feels that way. Having said that, I don't like the song at all. I think there's more wah pedal abuse on this one song than there has been on the entire album, and it's like quite nauseating. So yeah, D. Anurag.
Yeah, man, I mean, yeah, like I really like this song every time I revisit it, but I think I haven't revisited it enough, clearly, like considering like the way you guys have sort of dissected it right now. But yeah, like I mean, I usually I think most, again, like within the context of the album, like it sounds like like it sort of it was going down a bit, and then like it suddenly like sort of fought for life a little bit, I guess, in a way. So that I felt like that's what My Friend of Misery was like on this album. Like it's a little more yeah, but I do agree that they've tried to force fit like a lot of elements into it, like like just in terms of like to stay with, I guess, where Metallica was in 1991. They've tried to like force fit a lot of stuff which just doesn't make sense. But yeah, sonically, like I'm still down for it. So I would begrudgingly, reluctantly give it an A. So yeah, what do you, Peter?
I have it as a B plus, and only if I could make my own edit. Like for sure, I know if Ravi and I sit and kind of like edit this, we'll take out the wahs or there's certain things. But like I felt like as when you
just check
put the
time, it's 6 minutes 49 seconds, dude. I mean, what the hell?
No, but then think
And
about it
that
in
too-
this manner, right? Like, what sounds worse on this particular song? Is it the lyrics and the vocals? Because that to me completely sucks out the whole energy of whatever was going on musically. And
also,
Yeah.
I think,
you leave the wah elements over there. This is the only song on which Kirk Hammett is using the wah pedal intelligently.
I don't think so. I actually actively hate this solo. And if you go with my theory of A, it being a bad solo, and B, it being a diss track to Dave Mustaine, it's like, see, we have a guitarist who plays this horrible guitar solo, and we've made 4 albums with him and 0 with you, Dave. That's how much we hate you.
Yeah. And
I mean, like,
and it also does the job of basically telling Jason, you said, hey, you're not still in the band.
no, but I'm just thinking, like when I'm thinking of it, like you take off the lyrics, right? I would, but then do I want to listen to like 7 minutes of it at the end of like an album, right? Which is almost an hour long. Like that's the
When
thing.
it's played live, I don't think My Friend of Misery is ever played live in entirety. They just start with the bass, let the guitar come in, and then they move on to another song.
like basically what PDV used to do with Blind, like the start of that part. And
No,
then
it's
leave
always. I mean, even on live shit, Binge and Purge, and even on the I'm forgetting which the next big DVD or whatever, the video recording of their concert in which all of them had cut their hair. This was always used as bass doodle. It wasn't ever used as My Friend of Misery.
Yeah.
I'm a huge Jason Newsted fan, so for me this song is special. But yeah, I completely get why it's not considered a good enough Metallica song, because yeah, it is not that good enough of a song as a song. Anyways, that leads us to the last song, which is The Struggle Within. What's the reason for this song to end the album? I have no fucking idea.
That's my exact, like,
Metallica,
why?
generic Metallica song. This song is a B for me.
I'm going to quickly chime in.
Oh,
I'm
yeah,
going to
go
quickly chime in and say, like, it's a B plus. Like, it's like, now it's a recurring trend towards the last 3-4 songs. You're just like wondering why they have it on this album. Like, I'm just wondering, like, if you took all these songs and put it on another Metallica album, whether it would have worked, right? That's how I'm thinking.
None of the Metallica albums up to this point would have a song like The Struggle Within.
Ravi, what do you say?
Oh, completely forgettable. And I mean, the interesting thing about the other songs is they have elements that make you remember them, whether you remember it happily or whether you remember it from a point of view of, oh my God, that sucked. It's at
Mhm.
least memorable. The struggle within is essentially complete sonic wallpaper. It's just random noises made to wind down a CD and push it over the 60-minute mark. So I don't know for what reason.
Yeah. Yeah,
So
man. I mean, I don't get, like, I mean, considering Bob Rock and just the kind of stuff that he's worked on, like it, I mean, of course, you can't blame it on the producer, but yeah, like you could also blame it on the producer and just be like, you're the one who's supposed to, push and just, trim out all the fat or whatever. But yeah, clearly, like, he saw sense in keeping a song like this, which, yeah, for me, like, it just took like a kitchen sink approach, basically. Like it just, and, like that's really not, again, like that. I mean, it's, I guess maybe sometimes it's kind of the worst way an album ends, actually, like when you just see a band try to do everything in like the last song as like one last hurrah or whatever the fuck you call it. But yeah, so yeah, for me it just didn't work. Like no matter how much they try to like push and pull and all the stuff, yeah, like there's so much like there's just so much anger and like there's a lot of like intensity in the song where it's all quite misguided, I feel. So yeah, it's gonna be a B at best for me. What about you, Animesh? Oh wait, you already did, right?
yeah, I think we've got everyone's scores except Ravi. You didn't actually grade the song.
Oh yeah, sorry. Definitely a D.
All right. So with that, we finish grading all the songs here. I'm going to quickly ask for your grades on production. I'll start this one off and say that the production on this album is pretty good. It manages to make it does justice to the entire band. Yes, it is polished up, but that's okay. They wanted that on this particular album, and thank God they did. Finally, you can hear Jason Newsted. So yeah, overall, it sounds
Justice
good.
for
So,
Jason. There was justice for Jason.
Absolutely. So yeah, I'd rate this an A purely in terms of production.
Yeah, it's an A for me also for production. It just sounded great on, like, on as long as it sounds great on every sort of things, and it doesn't sound too sort of dated that way. Like even now, it still sounds like it packs a punch that way. So yeah, it's an A for me for production.
Same. I mean, in a Spotify, Apple Music era where everyone's kind of consuming it, it still stands up, right? It doesn't sound like how many times have they remastered or remixed it? I think once, right?
Once.
Yeah. So
Yeah.
So I think that's just for digital.
Yeah, I'd say it's a pretty good. Yeah, sorry, Peter. I interrupted.
No, I think I think like you can tell, right? I mean, we can get to like what we thought and what everyone thought about the album, but like this is where you can tell like Bob Rock's influence, right? The kind of getting in there, but how much did it impact like the songwriting and all of that? I think we've already discussed that. Ravi?
Yeah, I think it's a very good sounding album. I think one of the things to remember at that time was the fact that cable was just expanding all over the world. I'm not sure if this was a conscious decision, but lots of people at that point of time didn't have TVs with really great sound reproduction, right? So when you had songs that were really busy or that were not mixed properly, they just kind of came off sounding even worse than they would on an actual audio system. I think the production on this was so good, it actually compensated for the limitations of the technology that a lot of people were listening to music or had their first exposure to these songs on back then, which was mainly, televisions that didn't have stereo or, stuff like that.
Alrighty, so good. So a round of A's on the production. What about the artwork, guys? To me, in terms of the artwork, it's a B. It's not up to the mark with, I think this was a printing error or some sort of an artwork error. Like
Dude, imagine if can you imagine buying like the Indian print edition of it? Like you probably couldn't see.
No, you couldn't see Jack.
Yeah.
I did buy it and it was terrible.
Can you imagine somebody putting out a print ad for this? Like you can't see it. Fuck it up so badly, it'll just look like a printing error. Basically, they'll be like, for your consideration for the Grammys, this black square, basically.
See, if it had been just a black square, then maybe it would be interesting, like fill the void or whatever through the never. It like, there's so many ways you can interpret that, but this genuinely, like, after having seen such fabulous artwork from Metallica, to see something like this banal.
It's like they spent all the money in production and ran out of money for artwork. It felt like that.
So they were like, "Come, just draw a snake on this count."
Yeah, but I think in a way it sets expectations for the fans for the Metallica of the future. It's like, you know what? This is not the band that you knew and loved. Bye.
So wait, I'm very curious, Ravi. Like, now we're saying Black Album or self-titled or whatever. How did you refer to the album, or how was it referred?
We just called it Metallica because it was supposed to be a self-titled album.
Yeah.
So we just called it Metallica by Metallica.
Yeah. Okay. So quick grades on artwork. I've given it a B.
B.
I mean, like,
I'd say I'd give it an A because it worked very effectively as a warning. It was like, don't buy this, and don't buy any of our other albums if you like the first four.
Yeah, easy album to recognize because it's all just black, whatever.
Yeah.
Okay, so that pretty much sums up the entire grading. And yes, as you know, that's the verdict. It's not an all-A's album. But here's the thing, right? Whatever the verdict may be, we just have to also live with the fact that this, for many, remains the magical Metallica album, and it has a really special status for almost every heavy metal fan, which is weird, right? So I think let's quickly just talk about what this album has come to mean. But obviously, we won't do it in the legacy kind of a perspective. Instead, here are a few questions which let's see whether it helps us make sense of this album at that kind of a level. First off, hypothetically, would the Black Album or would Metallica exist, the album, okay, not the band, if Cliff Burton had not passed away?
That's a tough one, man. That's really tough to answer.
This is like a separate episode we can do.
No, think about it, because I think Cliff's presence was still firmly in the room at the time of Justice for All, and maybe that had too much Cliff in it. But do you think the band would have been in a similar headspace if Cliff hadn't passed away? Would they still want to, like, it's almost all the stories that I've read about the production of the Black Album has Lars and James saying that they wanted an album that was simpler. Right? They wanted an album that was a bit more accessible for everyone, right? And if you set that kind of an objective, the Black Album delivers on that objective, definitely.
Yeah.
Right? Do you think if Cliff had still been around, that kind of an objective would still have existed? Or would you have seen maybe all the musicians of Metallica basically enrolling in Berklee School of Music and becoming a better Dream Theater than Dream Theater ever was? Well, okay, maybe that's putting it far too much, but whatever. You get what I mean.
I was just like, what?
I'll try taking a stab at this. It's always a very, very difficult question to answer.
Of course, yeah.
With all those caveats taken, I'd say probably no, because from what I've kind of heard of Cliff, and considering the fact that a lot of the really complex, busy songs were songs that he had composed. And, like you mentioned, it was the Cliff influence that kind of was paramount even when And Justice for All was being written. So I think by the time they got around to recording this, they'd, in a sense, unshackled themselves from his memory and his approach and his way of doing things. If you think about it, look at the first album, which is, I think, Kill 'Em All. Most of the songs are a little simpler than, the song on Ride the Lightning, Puppets, which were, predominantly Cliff-driven albums. And then, of course, And Justice for All. So, yeah, probably no. Would they have been as successful? Definitely no. In the sense that this was Metallica swinging for the commercial fences. and they did what they had to do. They got the guy who produced Bon Jovi and Motley Crue. They essentially had a very, very, I mean, none of this was by accident. They had a very conscious focus that, okay, you know what? We don't want to be the biggest thrash metal band, because the biggest thrash metal band is still going to be something that maybe around 50,000 or 60,000 people worldwide know about. We want to be the biggest metal band, or rather the biggest band with metal in the title. So, that's essentially the approach as far as the Black Album was concerned. If you think about it, Iron Maiden doesn't have its Black Album. And, it's the reason why, while you may have differing views on their discography, at least as a heavy metal band, I kind of respect them more because they attained massive commercial success, but on their own terms.
Interesting. Okay. Wait, Anurag, Peter, do you guys want to chime in on this question, or should I move on to the next question?
No, I think
so just to
ahead.
Just looking back at the memory of Cliff, right? I'd like to think that he would still stand his own, and I don't know, man. It would be like really weird if he also kind of gave in and put together. On the Black Album, decided to make it simpler, right, and just gave in to the consensus to what James and Lars wanted. But I like to think that Metallica would have been completely different, and we would never ever hear a Saint Anger if he was still around, let alone the Black
Saint
Album.
Anger though is like that's
I know
that's
a
different era, but whatever. I get what you mean when you're using the word gave in, right? So this naturally brings up the second question, and I'd like Anurag to begin this one. Do you guys think that Metallica sold out with the Black Album?
Yeah, no doubt. And considering like sold out has like so many different connotations.
Yeah.
Like, somebody will be like, so we sold out, so what kind of thing. So like I feel like they definitely did. They made that leap, and they didn't, I think for the most part, they didn't really care what people thought. And which is, I guess, how you ought to be if you're in music, I guess. Like, you can't be like too much like hung up on, like what will this one fan sitting in this one room think about us when we release, like, Nothing Else Matters or something. So yeah, definitely they did do that. Yeah. What do you think, Ravi?
Oh, absolutely. This was if you ask me, the most conscious and deliberate attempt at going commercial we've probably heard in the history of heavy metal. I think Megadeth tried to do it, but were nowhere near as successful at it, mainly because, Mustaine doesn't have the voice of Hetfield. He didn't have a voice that was malleable enough to, do the sneering kind of stuff and then also do a fairly effective power ballad, though he tried with the Thulemon. But, I think every element, and pretty much in their career after that, every element was calibrated by, how can we be more accessible? How can we be more accessible? Until, oddball experiments like Lulu, where they're now rich enough to experiment. They're rich enough to mix it up a little. And they know that there's going to be at least maybe around 100,000 buyers and things like that. So I think they mix it up a little now, but, it was definitely them selling out. And, considering the fact that they're now multi-billionaires, probably good for them. There's nothing worse than trying to sell out and then, not really hitting those commercial goals like so many other bands tried.
Yeah, trying to sell out and failing. That's
embarrassing.
Yeah.
Okay, cool. So that leads me to the next question then, which should be taken by all of us. Peter, start this one off. Is this Metallica's best album?
No, man. Not at all. But best-selling album? Yes, because like 30 years later, they're still on the Billboard charts. Because now the Billboard charts, the entry level is so low. I don't know. Did I discuss this with you guys? Like, all you have to do to get into the Billboard 200 right now is sell 400 albums. 400 copies of your album. That's how low it is. and Metallica selling like a couple of thousand consistently every week. So, like, best album commercially, 100%. If 30 years later they are still selling out and on the charts, uh, best album, no man. Like, it's so hard. Like, again, this is going to be like another debate for another episode. Which one? And we can do like the best of the first four, because I think there's a consensus among the first four. But yeah, man,
Okay, Ravi.
not at all.
I'd say it's definitely the best album for them, and I think it's probably. I mean, if you take this discussion out of our admittedly elitist kind of little circle that we have going here, I think it's, as far as the general public or the world at large is concerned, the best Metallica album. There's lots of people who actually don't like the album too much now, but for whom it was almost a kind of gateway drug to heavy music. You know, you kind of got in on the slightly lighter weight songs, like maybe around, Nothing Else Matters. You moved on to Unforgiven. If you think about the way the singles were released, there's actually a kind of progression there. So, you get in on Nothing Else Matters, which is basically the ground floor. And Nothing Else Matters, in my opinion, is indistinguishable sonically from Everything I Do It For You. So it's at that level. Then, you upgrade slightly to The Unforgiven. Then from there, you go on to Wherever I May Roam, which has this very, very catchy chorus. You move on to Enter Sandman, which is a slightly more menacing sort of song. And then, you're kind of prepared to explore the rest of their discography, and you're prepared to explore more in the heavy metal pond or sea or ocean or whatever you want to call it. So I think as a gateway to heavy metal, I think it's definitely their best album. But personally, it's their worst, and they were dead to me the day they released it.
Ooh, strong take. So wait,
Damn.
worst, that means you're rating this album below Saint Anger.
And Lulu.
I haven't heard anything after that. When I said they were dead to me, I meant that very literally. I mean, I heard a couple of songs on Load and I was like, nah, this is it. Then I heard I Disappear, and, the lyrics were just so atrocious.
You disappeared.
Yeah, I disappeared. Yeah, I think the only song I've heard by them, which was even slightly interesting in all these years, was probably the title track of Hardwired, which was, an attempt at kind of creating a sort of belated middle-aged thrashy song. But
we are back.
Yeah.
All right, Anurag, is this Metallica's best album?
No, man, and like actually, like at least I'm speaking from personal experience, right? And for me, like I don't even have a favorite Metallica album, unfortunately, because like I'm not that much into thrash metal to say that any of the previous albums are to my liking. So yeah, by that regard, yeah, like I don't have a favorite Metallica album, and so that way, yeah, it's probably it's tough to say, I guess.
Okay,
Which leaves you, Animesh?
It's not Metallica's best album for me either. But here's the thing, right? And I was thinking about this. While preparing for this episode. This is the first Always episode in which I didn't have to listen to the entire album from beginning to end and meticulously spend time on each song or the song elements, because as a young heavy metal fan, I've listened to this album n number of times already, and all the songs are still with me in some way. So when you immediately, yes, even if it is as forgettable as The Struggle Within, the fact that I've already heard it so many times earlier, that counts for something. It's definitely not Metallica's best album for me, because I don't revisit this album at all. I don't need to, right? It's not special. But here's the thing, I don't miss revisiting this album because it's just so popular. I've heard Nothing Else Matters so many times at so many places where you would never expect to hear rock music.
Hard Rock Cafe.
But Hard Rock Cafe, you expect to hear Nothing Else Matters, right? Like I'm saying places like Bar Stock Exchange, which is a bar, like where people at the end of the day start dancing. I've heard this at, like, I don't know, name any other odd dance club. I've heard this I've
That's
heard this on rotation. I've heard this on rotation in a gym, for God's sakes, right?
What? Wait,
Yeah.
which song you heard in the gym?
Nothing else matters. Nothing else matters has been
Wow.
played in the gym.
that was probably the cool down music or something.
Whatever it
Yeah, I'm
was.
just wondering.
Whatever
us.
it was. See, the fact that Nothing Else Matters, Enter Sandman, and Sad But True have reached that. It's basically those three songs, and I would maybe include Wherever I May Roam on that list as well. I don't include Unforgiven on the list because Unforgiven has never been as popular as the other songs have been. But these three songs have gone on to define what heavy metal is supposed to be for the masses. And purely on those lines, I think, yes, you have to concede that this is Metallica's most popular album, even though for each one of us, it's not going to be their best album by a long shot. So, which leads me to my penultimate question here, which is, does this album deserve the title of being the representation of heavy metal to anyone outside the genre?
This has to be. I mean, like, if you think about it, right? The reason why I was talking earlier, why it sells, is because this is like your marketing executives come into a room and decide ki, what is the best kind of way to get people into metal. And if on that basis, I mean, just look at it. I mean, what you're talking about earlier, right? These are playlist songs. These are the songs that are just there to fill in playlists. There's nobody like consciously thinking ki, Metallica, I need to put one Metallica song in the mix in there, right? I think just basis just the kind of legacy it has. I mean, there are how many bands that are covering and how many artists that have been commissioned to do that whole blacklist thing. There's a reason why that happens, right? I mean, you've got, I've actually written this down because I didn't remember the guy's name, but there's a reggaeton singer from Colombia called J Balvin, who I had no idea who the hell he was. He's done a version of Wherever I May Roam. Ravi, I'm 100% sure you shouldn't listen to it, but just trivia. And can you imagine?
I have a better guitar lead, so I think I will.
No. So it's only him just throwing in like a verse or whatever, probably like the Snoop Dogg kind of thing. But that's it, right? The very fact that the 30 years later, corporate metal has decided to now, make it even more massy. Can you just imagine the number of people that are going to hear it now? There's going to be somebody who's a fan of this J Balvin here of Metallica. There's somebody who's a fan of, I don't know, whichever band. Who are just suddenly going to discover. And the reason why they've done it with this album and none of the first four is because this is the one that can actually go out. I mean, I'm going to talk about the elephant in the room. Did you fucking think that Divine has actually heard Unforgiven? But the fact that he features on that is the fact, right? Like, I mean, is the fact that they want to make, I mean, while it is charity and I get all of that, but come on, man. Yeah, it goes for charity, right? All the money that...
I thought you meant in the case of featuring Divine. On it charity.
Well, I mean, at the... Sticking my neck out, yes.
I forgot about the fact that, yes, all of the songs on the blacklist are in some way set up
but that still doesn't... But that still doesn't take away that Divine's feature on there is a charity. Let's put it out there. And I say it. But there's a reason why that happened, right? Is all of this is only because they know that the fact that they can market it and push it out more. And whether we like it or not, like four of us may not like this album and not rate it and all is to the Suits and everyone else and the marketing executive, they just been seeing money. So that's unfortunately become the best representation as much as we dislike it. Please, Anurag, give us a different perspective.
I mean, like, exactly, right? Like, if you zoom out a little bit, it's a self-titled album by a band called Metallica. It has metal in their name. So on that level, like, it literally feels like that that they wanted to be that name that everybody would associate metal music with or heavy music with. So, and they 100% achieved that with this album. That's what I would say.
I buy that. I completely buy that too. Ravi.
Yeah, I mean, I think I said this earlier. It's definitely album that would possibly convert a non-fan into heavy metal. Like if you hadn't heard any heavy metal before that, and if you heard this, it walks the line between being catchy while at the same time being, you know, different enough from mainstream commercial music to, be a little intriguing. And of course, the fact that there's a whole bunch of people who've chosen to kind of reinterpret the songs in their own way. The fact that the songs are commercial enough to allow for such a reinterpretation, I think it's definitely, full props to them for selling out the way they did. Because if you're gonna sell out, this is the way to do it, and not make some half-ass song with the chorus in French.
And that.
Ouch! Oh my god.
Cool. And that leaves me with the final question, and this is purely on popular demand. It's the biggest fucking burning question that this album or this discussion warrants. What did you guys make of the Blacklist, and especially Vishal Dadlani, Divine, and Shore Police's cover of The Unforgiven?
Anurag, I want to hear you go.
For people who can't see this, Ravi's just gone and muted himself because he's absolutely just laughing his guts out.
He is imitating the Seinfeld laugh track at this point, I guess.
Go for it. I think Anurag will have the most unbiased opinion on
dude,
this.
What are you talking about? What unbiased? What the fuck? Like, no, dude. Like, I haven't heard the album. Like, I just don't want to listen to it. Like, it's yeah. I mean, it's clearly just a marketing gimmick. Like, I heard the Weezer cover because it played on some radio channel that I was listening to, and when the Divine cover came out, I was just like, yeah, I think enough people have said enough about this that they don't like. Yeah, I don't get no value will be added by me listening to this. So yeah, I just completely avoided it, man. And there might be a chance that I'll check it out on a whim later because, like Animesh mentioned, the Snoop Dogg song and stuff like that. Like, that might make me curious, but otherwise, no, not really. No, not gonna listen to it. Probably.
So you're not gonna buy the Blacklist for sure.
No.
I think that kind of sums up my approach to the Blacklist as well. I was genuinely excited when when the idea was approached, but it's just too much, man. I'd rather listen to the Black Album willingly than have to sit through more than 50 songs or variations of the same song. And
which one has the most number of covers? I forgot.
I don't care at this point.
I think it's Nothing Else Matters.
I think Nothing Else Matters is the one that has the most.
Matters.
Yeah,
it's quite ham-fisted that way. That they got different artists cover same songs.
It's a great thing to do when you are trying to bump up the popularity of such a popular album in the first place. But yeah, whatever. I'm no longer looking at it as holy shit, this is cool, and I have to listen to snippets of it. But yeah, it's going to be a task. Like, I think the Blacklist album will become the de facto torture device used by US military now.
It isn't already.
Like, just to having to sit through that entire, I don't know, 4 hours of music, 3 hours of music, whatever. And talking about The Unforgiven, I'm over it. It happened. It occupies airspace. Fuck it. I hope somebody makes money off it.
Someone clearly is, and I hope charities benefits, right?
I genuinely hope all the people in the 5-9 can go like, holy shit, this Metallica thing is pretty cool. If Divine listens to it, we should listen to it. And that's the way you bump up. You justify another Metallica concert in India where you'll get like maybe 20,000 or 30,000 people to attend, and half the tickets will be like, because everybody expects Divine to come on stage and perform, and then they'll be like astounded, and you have a riot here because Divine didn't come out and play a Metallica song.
Ouch.
I've already built this in my head. This is going to happen now.
Yeah, this should be the epilogue to your Black Album book.
That's an idea.
No, but here's the thing. I mean, since everyone's kind of said what they had, I already said what I wanted to say about Divine. Imagine if they took the approach that Nativity in Black was there, right? The tribute to Black Sabbath. Like you actually got people in there, and it wasn't like a marketing thing, because right now it seems like a marketing thing. The reason why there's a reggaeton singer doing a cover, there's a reason why, I don't know why Shore Police, because for a lot of people they were like, who was Shore Police, honestly, were chosen from India. But whatever, man. I mean, nepotism, or call it what you want. The fact that they've taken this approach of finding who are the popular artists and how it will work. But imagine if they did it the style that Nativity in Black was done.
If you
who would you like to see?
Dude, if you've done
who
it
would
in
you
the
like
style
to
of,
have seen? That's my question.
If it was still like, if the intention was still to popularize it, or to make it relevant in terms of country specific thing, there would be no doubt that then that you would have had Brahma fucking fronting the Indian cover.
Quite a comeback.
No.
Or,
No,
like,
then
who else, right? What, Scepter?
no, I'm just saying, like in terms of general, I don't care about India. I'm like let's forget
generally,
the fact.
No, then
Generally, who are the artists you would really like to see? Because like even when you go back listening to both the versions, I mean both volumes of Nativity in Black, right? There are a bunch of cool artists that kind of have covered Black Sabbath.
Of course. See, that's
So,
the thing.
I'm saying
it's very easy. No. What I'm saying is, I love the idea of the blacklist. Okay, I think it's a fabulous concept, especially when you take this kind of an album which is so popular and which almost every musician has a story too, right? The fact that a Lady Gaga can go and talk to a metal site and say that, hey, I like Metallica because of the Black Album, or the fact that even a Miley Cyrus actually is a Metallica fan to some level, to even fucking Akshay Kumar going out and saying that, okay, I've heard Nothing Else Matters or whatever of that sort. I'm not sure, but I think that he said that somewhere, right? Or some other leading Bollywood actor has said that.
I'm pretty sure Saif Ali Khan is like air guitar into it.
There's no comparison there.
joking.
What did he be guitaring to on that particular cover?
Yeah, but the concept of a blacklist is great. I would have loved to see more high profile artists, but why they did it in the fashion that it did it is outstanding, man, because it will drive new listeners of those musicians to Metallica itself. And I think Anurag got hit the like really hit the hammer on the nail as such when he said that this is, when you look at it from the long lens, this is a brilliant ploy to make or to just add to the fact that Metallica is the world's biggest heavy metal band. And I think that's, like, take it or leave it, it is the legacy of the Black Album now. No matter how much we may whine about it, we have to live with it. And I think only on that front, it's great.
I completely agree. I honestly don't think it was conceived as something where, people would actually buy physical copies of it and sit around listening to, infinite covers of this one. This was obviously created for streaming generation, and you listen to your favorite contemporary artist do a take on this ye old heavy metal song by this ye old heavy metal band, and it's an interesting and amusing kind of experience for you as a listener. And maybe, again, if you're interested enough, you work your way back to the source. So yeah, I think it's definitely marketing driven, which is probably precisely why they didn't want to get heavy metal bands in, because what would have been the point of that? Heavy metal bands already listen to Metallica. Heavy metal fans, already listen to Metallica and have an opinion either for or against the Black Album. So this was obviously an attempt to get a new audience in. So, the question of them getting heavy metal bands to pull together and cover the album is redundant, because they don't want any more heavy metal fans. They want non-heavy metal fans. So, I think from that point of view, it's a good strategy. Speaking specifically about the Divine cover or the Vishal Devlani cover, I didn't hate it as much as I thought I was going to. It was all right. It was a little Sonic wallpapery. I think I hated the Yo-Yo Ma outro to, Nothing Else Matters more than I hated the Divine and Vishal Dadlani thing. Because, maybe it was just a question of expectations. I expected better from Yo-Yo Ma and I expected absolute crud from these people, but well.
Oh, well, it's sad but true.
Hang on. Would you? So I'm going to throw this in and Ravi's going to absolutely hate me. But would you take Vishal Dadlani and co.'s cover of The Unforgiven or the cover of Come Together?
That's tough. Probably The Unforgiven. Because Vishal sounds fairly decent in his bits, I think he was trying to do a what's that band called? Disturbed, doing Sounds of Silence style vibe. But he did a fairly decent job of it. It's not something that I'm ever going to go back to, but it didn't actively infuriate me when I heard it. Unlike Come Together, which was I need to find something to stab my eyes and my ears with inducing.
So on that note, ladies and gentlemen, whoever's still listening to this, what's clear by now is that for Horns Up, Metallica's Metallica or the Black Album is not an always album, but we are okay if it's yours. And that's all that we're going to say about it. Tell us what you feel. You can write into us at hornsuppod.com or find us on Twitter at hornsuppod. As always, I am on Twitter at Asbawani.
I'm at Trend Crusher.
I'm at Anurag Tagat on Twitter.
And Ravi is still
at home.
Exactly. I was hoping you'd say that. Till the next time, guys. Horns up.
Horns up.
Horns up, guys.
See you guys.
Bye. Horns up.